let's talk about maybe why we're in this situation and how the federal budget and the federal deficit might play into where we're at right now. As you can see, this graph is put together by David Walker, who was the former Comptroller General of the United States. He ran the government accounting office, so he knows about these numbers, and he's been screaming about these numbers for quite some time because our deficit is getting to proportions that threaten the sustainability of our country. Our national debt, for those of you that haven't seen my website and the blog, is over $70 trillion when you count all of the entitlement programs of what we've promised in Social Security and Medicare. We are in serious trouble in this country. And there are serious cuts that are going to be coming over the next decade. Those of you that have been following the Wisconsin situation understand how ugly this can get. And so, as you can see in this graph, in the year 2046, we're only projecting to have enough money coming in through our federal income taxes, personal and corporate. We're only going to have enough money to pay the interest on the debt that we've borrowed as a country. We won't have enough money to pay Social Security or Medicare or the discretionary mandatory items, which we can't pay right now anyway. And so that's why we're in a deficit. That's why we're going to have $1.6 trillion over what we bring in. That's atrocious. And things need to change. And people are starting to realize that things need to change. Yet, we're not really doing anything about it yet. But we are going to start doing something about it. Now, in Obama's proposal for the 2012 budget, here are the items that I've analyzed in detail that are going to be cut from the Housing and Urban Development budget. Well, you can see that $300 million is coming out of the Community Development Block Grants, the CDBGs. Now, whether that has an impact on all of us or not, we're not 100% sure. It's not going to hit all of our CDBGs, but what it is going to do is it is going to reduce the potential monies that we're going to need to run these programs that we feel are crucial to the sustainability of our communities. So, as we continue to go forward, cutting government spending is a difficult thing to do, as you can tell from Wisconsin and the other states that are starting to find out what happens when you propose a cut that affects a human being. Well, the Republicans proposed a $61 billion cut to our current budget. And look what happened there. That's $61 billion. Sounds like a lot of money. Well, if you look at the chart that I put together, that's just a sliver of what our deficit is. Not our entire budget, but just our deficit. So that sliver that you see, the $61 billion sliver, is just a small portion of what our total deficit is of what we spend more than what we make. That's how difficult it is going to be to try and take all of those slices and cut them. That's going to be a difficult task. So as that's happening, we're going to need to rely on philanthropy more and more to fund programs that what we're calling are in the sustainable philanthropy category. So what is sustainable philanthropy? Well, first you have to look at the whole pie of philanthropy in general. In the United States, we give away $300 billion a year. That's a lot of money, and they go to these particular categories. So you've got education that's leading the way at $40 billion. As you go around, you can see that about $40 billion goes to human services and the public society benefit, which is what categories we're looking at in our initiative. So back to sustainable philanthropy for a moment. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett sat down in March of 2010, and they created what is now known as the Giving Pledge. And they've now got 58 people that have dedicated to give away more than half of their wealth, either in their lifetime or beyond. What we're doing is to help put together a plan that will show what items we need in our communities so that we can take care of our own. even in an economic turbulent society, which we're going to be living in for probably another decade or two, we need to take care of our own. That's what I'm terming sustainable philanthropy. And if the government can't fund it, then I'm suggesting that those that have already committed their wealth, that should be given an opportunity to see what areas they can contribute their wealth. And that's really what the Giving Legacy Plan is all about, is pooling all those resources together, but from an efficiency and an effective standpoint, putting together a philanthropic program that can be run so that the philanthropists can feel comfortable that their funds that they're donating are going to go to the right place. And that's a big question mark for a lot of family foundations. They want to make sure that their money isn't going to go to waste or just go into a black hole. So the Giving Legacy Fund is actually not one physical fund that you can pull up an account balance and look at. It's pooling all of those wealthy individuals, family foundations, and corporations that have decided to give away a small portion of their wealth. And the way it works is, instead of making a gift of, say, $10 million, they would allocate that $10 million into a fund that would be pooled with other philanthropists, and those funds would be invested. They might buy businesses, they might invest it in certain stocks, bonds, what have you, but they stay in control of those funds. They're the ones that made the money in the first place. They've been blessed with the ability to make money. So let's let them keep doing that. If they've dedicated a good portion of these funds to philanthropy, why not take the principal of those funds and give away the profits? It's what's known as a mission-based investment fund. And that's what we're looking to do, is create a giant mission-based investment fund that we can track and show where those profits can be disseminated to, i.e. those areas that qualify under the sustainable philanthropy category. So that's what this Giving Legacy Fund does. If you notice, in the year 2046, which is where I ended this graph, you can see that if these individuals and corporations only gave away 5% of their income, and I'm not asking everyone to dedicate themselves to do this, 25% of the corporations and 30% of the individuals, giving away 5% of their wealth, invested properly with modest returns, by the time 2046 comes, there's going to be $730 billion per year allocated towards philanthropy. That's a lot of money, folks. Even more important is there's only less than $10 trillion that was in total deposited into this fund. That money didn't get distributed. That money stayed in the fund. Only the profits were distributed. And with less than $10 trillion deposited into this fund, or just tracked into this fund, there was over $12 trillion given away to charitable organizations in this example. And $13 trillion still remains. And that $13 trillion is spinning off $730 billion a year. That's we the people. That's we the sustainable people taking care of our own.